Welcome, Minister of Labour. Welcome to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Labour and the senior technocrats in your ministry. Welcome. Head Tete, Ministry of Labour. Head Tete, Ministry of Labour. $427,624,132. I will now invite the Minister of Labour to make a brief opening statement not exceeding 5 minutes. Mr. Minister.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me first say I'm grateful for the opportunity to meet with this distinguished group at the Standing Finance Committee for the first time in my political career to present this budgetary allocations of the Ministry of Labour for the financial year 2020-21. The ministry that I have been privileged to serve is now known as the Ministry of Labour. 3 divisions and 1 company, which were once part of the Ministry of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, have been transferred to the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. These are the Cooperative Development Division, the Friendly Societies Division, the Enterprise Development Division, and the National Entrepreneurship Development Company. As a consequence, Mr. Chairman, the draft estimates of expenditure reflect reductions, particularly under personal expenditure and current transfers and subsidies, that takes into account this realignment of the portfolio within the ministry. Mr. Chairman, the Ministry of Labour plays a critical role in promoting decent work, maintaining industrial peace, and promoting rights and responsibilities in the workplace. I am grateful for the opportunity to focus on enhancing the labor administration system in Trinidad and Tobago and improving service delivery and efficiency in the Ministry of Labour. I am fully aware that there is much more to be done at the Ministry of Labour, especially in the current environment where we battle the crisis of COVID-19 as well as declining revenues. The new normal demands a change in how we operate, as well as a change in our mindsets, where we must seek value for money and do more with less. Together with the support of our social partners, that is, workers and employers organizations and other stakeholders, I look forward to outstanding achievement that will redound to the benefit of the labor force and the population at large. In closing, we look forward to a fruitful and productive session and avail ourselves to provide the necessary information and clarification required at this gathering. I thank you.
Honourable members, the question is that the sum of $427,624,132 for Head Tete, Ministry of Labour, stand part of the schedule. Honourable members, the sum of $427,624,132 for Head Tete, Ministry of Labour, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads, and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure, the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure of the statutory boards and similar bodies and of the Tobago House of Assembly, and the draft estimates of the development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. We are on page 203, subhead 01, personal expenditure, item 001, general administration. Member for Couva South, I recognize.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Very quickly, Minister, in relation to the overall operations of the Ministry of Labour, and I've heard your opening statement as a result, indicating how much division have been transferred to the Ministry of Youth and Enterprise Development. Given what is left in terms of divisions, could you indicate how many vacant positions you have in your ministry, and especially in the conciliation division of the ministry?
One sec.
Identify specifically.
01. Salaries and
01. 01, page 203, Mr. Minister.
01, page 203. We have 144 vacant positions, and you are asking specifically for the conciliation.
division.
We have 33 vacant positions.
33 vacant.
33 vacant positions.
And how has that impacted upon, in terms of dealing with the matters reported to the Ministry of Labour at the moment, before the conciliation division?
Okay, we are working with what we have, and we have not had any major issues of delays or anything like that. So we can do with more staff, as everyone here would agree, but we are working with what we have.
Okay, and do you have a substantive person in the position of head of the conciliation division?
We have a Chief Labor Relations Officer, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Item 002, cooperatives. Item 003, friendly societies, page 204. Item 004, occupational safety and health authority. I recognize the member for Couva South.
Minister, very quickly again, under remuneration, 06 remuneration to board members, excuse me. Do you have a full complement as it relates to the members of the board of the authority?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Item 005, on-the-job training program. Subhead 02, goods and services, page 205. Item 001, general administration, pages 205 to 206. Item 004, occupational safety and health authority, pages 207 to 208. Item 00, I recognize the member for Couva South.
Yes, Chairman. Minister, with respect to 004, occupational safety and health authority, I'm not seeing any allocation in relation to salaries and so on, but I see under 16, contract employment, $16,150,000. Does this mean that all of your health and safety inspectors are on contract employment? All. And could you indicate what is the duration? All are under what? 3-year contracts, 1 year, or there's a mix of the duration of these contracts?
One sec.
That's for the records, I'm staging. It caught my ear, no?
Okay, they are on 3-year contracts.
Minister.
Oh, they are on 3-year contracts, and we have some on short-term contracts, but most of them are on 3-year contracts.
Minister, to create what we would call an organizational structure and a permanent establishment to move these, how many officers you said on contract?
152.
152 officers, that is health and safety inspectors.
No, that's the entire structure. There is an approved structure for OSH.
Yeah. So is there to move these contract officers into the, what we would call, the permanent establishment of the authority?
Yes, there is.
And could you give us a time frame when this exercise may be completed?
It's a work in progress, so I would not hasten to give an end date.
Okay.
But it's a work in progress.
Excuse me. In relation to the head of the authority, do you have a substantive person in what is called the, whatever is the terminology, whether it's chief executive officer, executive director?
The executive director, which is the head of the agency, is
that
on contract.
person is acting or confirmed?
No, not confirmed. On
Not
contract. On contract. The individual is on contract.
Is on contract, but not confirmed.
Well,
If I heard you, I'm trying to get you clear on what you are saying.
no, well, if you're on contract, you
You
can't
cannot,
be
yeah.
confirmed in the permanent position.
Position.
So it's on contract. And the contract has a renewal time span on it, which I believe is next year. And it's a 3-year contract.
The 3-year contract. I don't know if you would be so kind enough to probably put in writing what is the qualifications for the substantive head of this entity, and what are the qualifications for the person who is currently acting or in the contract position. What qualification does that person, the office holder, has, the current office holder?
Okay, we will.
Okay, thank you.
I recognize the member for Chagonas West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honourable Minister, in light of that last question and your response, how does that relate to line item 16, contract employment? Is there any overlap? I know you said earlier you spoke about 152 persons. Is there any overlap with line item 16?
They're all on the entire OSH agency is on contract. There is no overlap anywhere. They're all on contract.
So, just by way of follow-up, Mr. Chairman, line item 16, contract employment, does that relate to persons outside the number 142 positions you cited earlier?
What is this one here, 16? The 16,150,000 is referring to?
Yes.
That is to pay all the people on contract.
Okay. So, for clarity, this line item 16 relates to the said 152 persons that you referred to earlier?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Minister.
Item 005 on the job training program. Recognize the member for point of pay.
Thank you. Minister, line item 17, training. That figure of 311 million, I assume that would be the stipend to the trainees, correct?
Yes, it is for the trainees.
In 2020, the estimate was 274 million, and the revised estimate in 2020 was 311 million. So approximately over 25 million additional. Was there any reason for that in 25 million increase? Was it due to more trainees coming on board, or was it due to, I can't remember, there was supposed to be a stipend increase. I don't know if which one of the two.
And that was done? The $311 million represent an average loading of about 5,000 OJTs. We expect to continue around that level in 2021, and therefore the 311 reflects on average what we think we will spend.
So it's about if I get it correctly, about 5,000 trainees, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Member for Couva South.
Mr. With respect to this said line item 17 and the on-the-job training program, I remember in your budget presentation you said you was honoring the legacy of your predecessor. I want to tell you that is not a good role model to follow. But more importantly,
Chairman, standing order.
The last statement, please. No, member, just extract the statement, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I retract.
Member, just extract.
I said I retract. Yes, right, I said so. I wanted to ask the minister, with respect to trainees, I could remember your predecessor indicating to this House that there were ghosts in the on-the-job training program and she was saving the treasury of Trinidad and Tobago. In your assumption to office, are you aware of any matters which have been pursued by your ministry and so on from a legal point of view as it relates to any ghost trainees and so on in the OJT program?
So at this point, I am not aware of any issues surrounding any investigation or any, but I can check.
Mr. Chairman,
Minister,
all the ghosts were there between 2010 and 2015. And Mr. Chairman, I think
Mr. Chairman,
the last minister.
The minister, I'll give way to the minister.
How do you get rid of ghosts, Mr. Chairman? You have to smoke them out. So I think that was done by the last minister.
I don't know if you are good at exorcism, Madam.
And it was done effectively.
Madam Minister.
Right.
Yeah, I was one of the exorcists.
We'll move on. Member for Couva South. Or Couva North. Member, I recognize you.
Thank you, Chair. With respect to this same line item 17, training, can the Honourable Minister advise us with how the program works when a person coming out of school applied to become an OJT trainee? What is the turnaround period for they to be placed in an agency?
Line item that
Member, let's speak a little louder in the mic, please. Position your mic and yeah.
With respect to the line item 17, training, how long is the turnaround period for a person applying to enter the training program to actually be accepted into the program?
Okay, in terms of the administration part of getting students enrolled in the program, it takes 3 to 6 months, but thereafter students or OJTs are placed based on needs and demand. So someone could possibly have gone through the system and they are still awaiting placement several months after.
Is there a monitoring system that the ministry has in place for persons applying to become a OJT trainee to ensure that they don't just get lost in the system after submitting that application?
There is a monitoring officer specifically charged with that responsibility.
Subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 205, item 001, General Administration. Oh, no, my apologies. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, page 209, item 001, General Administration. page 209. Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, page 211. Item 004, international bodies. Item 005, non-profit institutions. Item 007, households. Item 009, other transfers, page 212. Item 010, other transfers abroad, page 212. Subhead 06, current transfers to statutory boards and similar bodies, page 212, and we go into the other booklet. Item 004, statutory boards, page 212. Honourable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure of the statutory boards and similar bodies and of the Tobago House of Assembly. Number 17, Cipriani Labour College, College of Labour and Cooperative Studies. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, page 187. Subhead Personal Expenditure, item 001, General Administration. Subhead 02, Goods and Services. Item 001, General Administration, pages 187 and 188. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases. Item 001, General Administration. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies. Item 007, Households, page 188. Honourable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of the development program. And we are going to page 74 of the developmental program booklet. Consolidated Fund, page 74. Item 003, Economic Infrastructure. Item 005, Multi-Sectoral and Other Services, pages 75 to 77. Honourable members, item 005 spans 3 pages. Therefore, I will also announce the project groups. Starting with M, Cipriani College of Labour and Corp Studies, page 75. Member for Couva South.
Chairman, Minister, under line item Cipriani College of Labour and Cooperative Studies, upgrade of ICT. Now in 2020, you had an estimate of $3 million, only $865,531 was spent. Now, I do not know what you plan to do or continue to do with $2 million in relation to this particular project. Could you elaborate for us?
Okay, the college was able to complete the installation of the network infrastructure. But what is required now is the next phase of the project to actually upgrade the computer systems and software in the college and some peripheral work around that. So really it's a continuation. One was the laying of the cables and the construction part. This part is more the software and some of the hardware like the computers and so on.
So a contract has been awarded to an entity?
No.
Okay.
Not as yet.
Not as yet. Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have the scope and a request for quotation is going out.
Okay. Our RFP is going out?
We have, yes.
Okay.
A, Administrative Services, page 76. I recognize the member for Chagonas West.
.059, Labour Legislation Reform. Can you tell us what is actually carded Or are you able to tell us what is actually carded for 2021 for this new fiscal year?
There's this one here, right? Have it somewhere. I have the whole listing here.
Mr. Minister?
Just 1 sec.
Second.
And this is under us, right? Really?
Proceed, please.
Yeah. In 2021, we'll be looking at legislation for the prevention and elimination of the worst form of child labor, Trade Disputes and Protection of Property Act, legislation related to employment standards, and the Truck Act.
Follow-up member for Shogunas West?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honourable Minister, of these pieces of or proposed legislation, are you able to tell us which ones would be, in essence, starting from scratch?
Minister?
All will be starting from scratch except the employment standards.
Thank you.
I now recognize the member for Couva South.
Minister, I've heard you in your response to my colleague from Chaguanas West, 059 labor legislation reform. That does not include, or will it include continued work on the Retrenchment and Severance Benefit Act and the Industrial Relations Act?
Yes, the acts that will be carrying over would be the Industrial Relations Act, the Retrenchment and Severance, Workers' Compensation, Cipriani College of Labor will be, in fact, going over with what I've just called as the...
Well, you want to amend the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies Act?
Yes.
Okay. And with respect to the 071, development of a labor migration policy in Trinidad and Tobago, in 2020, you had an allocation of $600,000. Nothing was done in 2020. Where you intend to go with this $500,000 in your relation to your work schedule?
Zero 71, you said?
Yes, yes.
Where do we intend to go with it?
Yeah, I want to hear because you did not spend anything in 2020.
Okay, and the reason for that is, of course, as everybody would know, COVID came and we were not able to hold the consultations and do some of the work that we needed to do. But we know that this is an important piece of legislation and that we intend to put it on the front burner because we think there are issues that need to be addressed, and therefore we need to create a revised policy, which has been actually developed, and we are just trying to get the consultations and the other pieces of data aligned so we could move it forward.
Okay, thank you. And could I, moving on to another line item, if you allow me, or if you want to recognize. Okay. 093, Minister of Rationalization of the National Tripartite Advisory Council. Could you tell us how this $700,000 will be spent as it relates to the work of the National Tripartite Advisory Council?
As you know, in 2016, the Honourable Prime Minister created the whole tripartite establishment. What we need to do now is to create a space for the operations, the full-time operations or the full-time Secretariat to help move this whole, to move it on to another level. What we have is we have identified a number of, we have identified the structure. We are in the process of identifying the actual office location, putting in the necessary infrastructure so that instead of people working out of several offices, we will now have one point of contact, one place, and able to manage the operationalization of that particular.
I don't know if you could be so kind in due course to furnish me in writing with a copy of your organizational structure and so on as it relates to this particular entity.
Not a problem.
And
we will.
Going forward.
Yes.
And in relation to, and I hope that, for example, the restructuring of WASA and so on and other, the privatization of the port may find itself before the National Tripartite Advisory Council. And in relation to line 101, implementation of a national workplace policy on sexual harassment, project number 101, a new project minister, and we all want to, I think, on both sides of this house will want this to gain some momentum in relation to dealing with this particular issue. Could you give us an insight on what your ministry intends to do, though that I think $200,000 really does not send a very strong signal that you are willing, or your government is willing, to tackle this issue in a very decisive manner.
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
One of the first things that we would like to do is to implement a 24/7 hotline. Also, we need to further progress the sensitization in the general public and in the workplaces about the whole issue of sexual harassment and how it can be dealt with. So that 200,000 will help facilitate the hotline and also promotional materials to sensitize the nation in general.
In this very house, what is the next stage from your ministry's point of view?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I may assist at this point, the Attorney General's office has drafted the legislation already based upon the policy. We were in stakeholder consultation across a number of sectors. We expect to approach the Cabinet very shortly and to be moving to the Parliament to treat with this issue.
Thank you very much, Attorney General.
Member for Shogunas West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honourable Minister, we have heard for some time moves to deal with the, amending the Industrial Relations Act and the Retrenchment and Severance Benefits Act since 2015, 2016. Can you tell us whether you have or you anticipate some kind of deadline for these two acts that we had dealt with under line item 59, Industrial Relations Act and Retrenchment and Severance Benefits Act?
If I could again assist my colleague, the policy positions behind that particular product are now receiving attention at the Attorney General's office. As soon as we have a clearer line of sight onto that, we intend to have a position, but I'm not yet in a position to say that. Suffice it to say, we're about to publish our legislative agenda, and we will have it lined up in that way. So the entire nation will be told as the legislative agenda comes forward.
a follow-up discourse there?
Thank you very
Minister
much,
of Planning.
Mr. Deputy Chairman. Just to indicate that in my capacity as Chairman of the National Tripartite Advisory Council, the Council has in fact dealt with those pieces of legislation, the amendments, and that is informing what the Attorney General is doing. All of them have been dealt with by NTAC at the request of the Cabinet.
Okay.
So they're there.
A follow-up, member for Chaguanas West.
Mr. Chairman, I'm grateful for the intervention of both Leader of Government Business and Honourable Attorney General. And of course the Minister. I wanted to move on just as a piggyback to my learned colleague, member for Couva South, on line item 101.
Sure.
Am I understanding, Minister, that this implementation of the workplace policy on sexual harassment is limited in light of what we have heard, that there is legislation due to be carried, that it is really limited to implementing a hotline that you referred to earlier and some promotional material?
Said already. F, public buildings, pages 76 and 77. Infrastructure Development Fund, page 203. Item 005, multi-sectoral and other services, page 203. Honourable members, the question is that the sum of 427,624,132 for head Minister of Labour stand part of the schedule. Those in favour say aye. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $427,624,132 for head 30 Ministry of Labour now stands part of the schedule. Thank you, Minister of Labour. Thank you, Madam Permanent Secretary, and to your senior technocrats from the Ministry of Labour. Registration, Recognition and Certification Board. Again, I'd like to welcome the Minister of Labour again, and also to the Registrar of the Registration, Recognition and Certification Board and your other senior technocrats from the board. Head 11, Registration, Recognition and Certification Board, $3,974,100. I will now invite the Minister of Labour to make a brief statement not exceeding 5 minutes. Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Registration, Recognition and Certification Board is a tripartite body created via the Industrial Relations Act, Chapter 8801. The board consists of a chairman and 8 other members who are appointed by the Minister of Labour. The chairman is selected by the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago after consultation with such organizations as is, in his opinion, most representative of workers and employers. With respect to other members of the board, 3 members are persons nominated by such organizations as, in the opinion of the minister, are most representative of workers. 3 members being persons nominated by such organizations as, in the opinion of the minister, are most representative of employers, and 2 members being persons jointly nominated by the organizations most representative of workers and employers. The minister appoints the chairman and 8 members of the board, and shall in like manner appoint an alternative member. The present board was appointed in May 31st, 2019. The board has a secretariat, which is headed by a secretary, who is the accounting officer. The secretariat is comprised of 26 public officers who carry out the day-to-day functions of the board. The role of the Secretariat is to provide consistently accurate, timely, and useful information of the board. The Secretariat must support the board in carrying out its mandate. The duties of the board are outlined in Section 23(1)(f) of the Industrial Relations Act, Chapter 8801, which reads as follows: the determination of all applications, petitions, and matters concerning certification of recognition under Part 3, including the taking of preferential ballots under Section 34(2). B, the certification of recognized majority unions. C, the recording of the certification of recognized majority unions in a book to be kept by it for the purpose. D, the making of agency shop orders under Part 4 and the conduct of ballots and proceedings in connection therewith. E, the cancellation of certification of recognition of trade unions. And F, such other matters as are referred or assigned to it by the minister under this or any written law. The board generally meets once per month. There may be committee meetings held in the interval between board meetings. The board committees are appointed in an ad hoc basis to treat with specific issues so that the matters can be brought to finality. Mr. Chairman, we stand ready and willing to respond to any question that this Honourable House may wish clarification on.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Honourable members, the question is that the sum of $3,974,100 for Head 11, Registration, Recognition and Certification Board stand part of the schedule. Honourable members, the sum of $3,974,100 for Head 11, Registration, Recognition and Certification Board is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of the recurrent expenditure. Now go to page 48, subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, item 001, General Administration, subhead 02, Goods and Services, page 48, item 001, General Administration, pages 48 and 49. Subhead 03, Minor Equipment Purchases, item 001, General Administration. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies, page 50, item 007, Households. Honourable members, the question is that the sum of $3,974,100 for Head 11, Registration, Recognition and Certification Board stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $3,974,100 for Head 11, Registration, Recognition and Certification Board now stands part of the schedule. Thank you, Mr. Minister of Labour, and thank you to you, Registrar, and the other senior executives of your board. Do reach home safely. You all are excused.